What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to an actual Tuesdays with Turbo, where it's actually Tuesday and I'm still Turbo. And yes, this is a very special episode. We have a name for the trivia segment, and I'm really happy to share that with you. But before we get into that, I hope everyone's having a great week. Hope everyone's having a great holiday season so far. Let me know in the comments if you have your Christmas shopping done already, if you are a last minute person, or if you just wait until normal guy stuff, Christmas Eve. Let me know in the comments what is your status as far as Christmas shopping is concerned. And for those of you that do not know, my name is Ryan Turbo Jackson. I am your insurance resource. And on videos like this, I like to educate folks on their insurance because a lot of times people don't even know what they're buying. And it's a pretty expensive purchase. So I always like to educate folks to let them know exactly what they're buying. And let's be honest, insurance is its own language, so let me help you. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I finally figured out a a name for the trivia segment here. It's claims and games. Claims and games, and this week we're going to do a holiday themed claims and games. And like the description says, these are they're meant to be humorous. They're meant to be a little bit fun and kind of lighthearted, but I will also give kind of real examples as to what something very similar, because we all know that Santa and his reindeer would not cause harm to our roof because Santa just wouldn't do that. But there are other things that could, during this holiday season, cause damage to our roof. So let's see if those are kind of the same. So before we get into this, before we start the claims and games segment here, go ahead and share this video, because even though you might think it's corny, you might think it's weird, someone on your timeline will find it at least a little bit humorous, a little bit enjoyable, and they might learn something. So let's get into claims and games holiday edition. Start with our first question. If Santa's sleigh crashes into your roof, which part of your home insurance covers the repairs? Now, like I said, I have a very good feeling Santa's kind of a nice guy, so I really don't think he would purposefully do this. But if he really did it, if he really did do this, he'd just shake his nose, use his magic, and get it fixed without having an insurance claim. But if he did it and didn't realize he did it, which part of your insurance policy would cover it? Is it A, your liability coverage, B, the dwelling coverage, C, your personal property, or D, medical payments? And this one's kind of easy. So we started off with an easy one, and obviously the answer is B, dwelling coverage. Now, why is it dwelling coverage? Because liability, you're not going to sue Santa. Personal property, none of your belongings were harmed, or medical payments, no one was hurt. Thankfully, hopefully we don't have a Santa Claus situation going on at your house. But let's kind of take a look at it from like a real life perspective here. Um, and this is something like if a tree fell on it, or wind ripped shingles off, or anything that would cause damage to the roof. Now, mind you, the roof has to be well maintained and things of that nature, which we've talked about in previous videos. But yes, your dwelling coverage would cover that. Keep in mind it would be minus your deductible, and if your policy has a separate wind and hail deductible, it might be subject to that. So just kind of keep those things in mind when we are talking about roof damage. Let's get to question 2. Question 2 says, if a Christmas tree fire damages your home, does your home insurance policy cover the repairs? A, yes, if it's accidental. B, no, not under any circumstance. C, only if you bought other coverage. Or D, only if it's a fake tree. Now, I think this one's kind of similar to the first one, but yes, if it's accidental, absolutely. This would be no different than if you happen to leave something near the stove and it catches fire. Just because it's a Christmas tree doesn't mean that you have to purchase any special coverage or there's anything special that you have to do. Now, keep in mind, it is always a good idea when you do, especially if you do have a real Christmas tree and people are putting up their Christmas trees way earlier than before. Make sure you keep that bad boy nice and watered so that it does last as long as it can, and those limbs and needles aren't getting super duper dry. But like I said, this is nothing. It's no different than if let's say you were making eggs on top of your stove and you happen to leave the egg carton a little bit too close, and the carrier catches on fire and it causes fire damage. Something very similar. Something very similar. Like I said, don't get thrown off the fact that just because it's a Christmas tree that there isn't any coverage. So let's take a look at number 3. And I have no video here. Give me 1 second so I can see you guys and gals. There we go. If Jack Frost's icy magic causes your pipes to burst, will insurance cover the water damage? Option A, yes, if you properly maintained your pipes. B, no, frozen pipes aren't covered at all. C, only if you live in the North Pole. Or D, yes, regardless of maintenance. Now let's take there's pretty much, since we are talking about folks here in Michigan, we can kind of rule out letter C here. But let's take a look at the answer. The answer is yes, if your pipes are properly maintained. And what do I mean by maintained? Well, if these pipes are in a place where you know that there's going to be some exposure to the cold, to the weather, make sure those are at least wrapped in insulation. The black pipe insulation is fairly inexpensive, and it can safeguard against a number of things. And furthermore, if that really doesn't do the trick, try one of those the pipe tape, the heated pipe tape. That will help out a lot. But even then, we've seen some temperatures get down pretty cold here. I remember putting boots on our dogs last year because it was so cold. And it's one of those things where when something like this happens, if you're not, being cognizant of what could happen, you could be stuck without having water and having a mess all over your house. So burst pipes equal mess, and mess equals, especially this time of year, something we don't want to deal with. So if you do have pipes in those situations, the weather's fairly nice today and it will be kind of getting colder here throughout the week, but this could be the time to take a look at those. And like I said, at minimum, um, insulate them. If not, like I said, get one of those heated pipe tapes, and it could help even uh, not even come close to a situation like that. But yes, if they are maintained, there is coverage. Number 4. If a reindeer crashes into your holiday lights, which type of coverage might pay for the damage? A, personal property. B, liability coverage. C, dwelling coverage. Or D, loss of use. And the answer here is personal property, because let's kind of whittle away the other ones. We've already talked about liability. There's really no lawsuit here. I have a very good feeling, even if you did try to uh, file a lawsuit against Rudolph, kind of hard to find him. Your dwelling coverage, it's not a part of the dwelling, even though you might have it stapled or zip tied or anything like that. It is still not considered part of the dwelling. And loss of use, there hasn't been a loss to the home where you and your family can't live in the home, so the loss of use really wouldn't apply here. So we're left with personal property. And we kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago, where we are seeing a lot of folks having quite a bit of decorations when it comes to the holidays. And a lot of those decorations aren't cheap. I mean, my wife and I have been seeing online. She saw a 40-foot Snoopy last night, and it was surrounded. Other homes had big, gigantic inflatables as well, and those I guarantee are very expensive. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that your deductible still plays in this. So if you have $1,000 deductible on your home policy, and a couple $100 worth of decorations are are damaged, is it there really wouldn't be a claim there. So kind of keep that in mind. But if there is enough damage, and if your if your deductible is low enough, then by all means there would be coverage. And lastly, number 5. And this is something that, if you followed me for any amount of time, I've done videos on a whole lot. So this one should be fairly easy. Number 5, you just bought expensive gifts. Which insurance features ensure they are covered if stolen? And we've went over a couple of these already. So, A, loss of use coverage. B, scheduled personal property endorsement. C, dwelling coverage. Or D, Frosty the Snowman clause. Now, I will tell you that if your company offers Frosty the Snowman clause, I think I might pick that up just to say I have it. But the correct answer is scheduled personal property endorsement. We already talked about the loss of use, and we've already talked about the dwelling. So obviously, these gifts are not part of the home. These gifts getting stolen are not going to displace you from your home. And Frosty the Snowman clause, I mean, that doesn't really sound like anything that would have to do with your personal property. But when you look at your current policy, different companies list these as different ways. But the vast majority of them, you're looking for scheduled personal property. Now, what can be scheduled? The vast majority of scheduled property that we see is jewelry. Wedding rings, wedding bands, passed down heirlooms, any rings, necklaces, earrings, pendants, you name it. We've got it covered somewhere here. But it does go beyond that. It does go beyond that. A lot of sporting goods. If we can ensure, if your son or daughter is a hockey goalie and you have thousands of dollars wrapped up in their pads and everything else, that can be scheduled. If you have collections or collectibles, those can be scheduled like that. It's company dependent whether you can schedule hearing aids anymore. And there is almost not a company right now that'll let you schedule your cell phone. They let the cell phone insurance kind of take over on that. Years ago, yes, we could schedule your cell phone on your home policy. And even garden tractors, utility tractors um, for for the premises. We even have, a lot of art, um, some Oriental rugs. So anything that's worth value, um, would be it should be eligible to be scheduled. Now, a lot of folks refer to this as I have a rider on my policy, which is essentially true, but it's not really a rider. It's more of an endorsement or a schedule. Let's put it that way. Some companies will offer blanket coverage for, you can buy like a $50,000 blanket and all of your jewelry goes into that. So that could be another option. Just like I said, it's very company dependent. So, what are the benefits of doing something like this? Now, let's go back to our example here, or our question. You just bought expensive gifts. Which insurance feature ensures that they are covered for being stolen? Now, let's run with the example with jewelry. Most companies will provide up to $2,500 worth of coverage for jewelry that's stolen. So some of it could be kind of baked into your home policy already. However, subject to your policy deductible. Now, let's say you have jewelry or firearms or collectibles that are over that $2,500 mark, then that's when we really, really want to take a step back and get these scheduled. And you might be like, well, Ryan, it's going to be more expensive. A little bit, but with that expense comes better coverage because we can set the deductible lower on these items than the policy deductible. And a lot of times we can actually put a $0 deductible on it. When it comes to jewelry in particular, it can expand the coverage to mysterious disappearance. You lost it. And another great thing is that when we do schedule and these items, that comes out of the personal property coverage on your home policy. So if you have $100,000 worth of personal property on your home policy and a $25,000 wedding ring, we're going to take that out. It's going to have its own limit, so it's not being added to like the lump sum. So it can expand coverage there. So it like I said, it is a little bit more expensive, but what you're paying for gets you a whole lot more coverage. Whole lot more coverage. And tis the season to be giving gifts like this. And now, if the gift is a Lexus with a big red bow on it, that wouldn't be home insurance at all, but we would be able to help out with that. Yeah, right. That's my holiday insurance quiz. How many did you get right? Hopefully, we're getting closer and closer to each and every one of you reaching 5 out of 5 every single time. But if not, if you have any more questions, here's how you can get a hold of me. You can comment on this video. You can shoot me a Facebook message directly. Here's the office number, or here's my direct email. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the holiday edition of Claims and Games. Hopefully, like I said, you found a little bit of value in this, maybe a little chuckle, but it was meant to be more lighthearted because we are getting closer and closer to Christmas, and no one really wants to think about bad things happening. So I did want to put more of a positive spin on this one and have a little fun. So, but like I said, we did include some real life examples. So still educational, still educational. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week. Everyone, good luck on your Christmas shopping if you haven't got it done already, and I will see you next week.